What's up, wall fans, common sensors, and of course, podcast consumers? Welcome to another very special annual video feed for Go Tell It to the Wall. We'll get into all the details and stuff if this is your first year listening, I guess, and you didn't go all the way back. But this is an annual episode that we put out every year. We've got a little take on certain things, and it's obviously around holiday stuff and also end of year. So we got a lot of stuff to get into. With all that being said, and I'm actually a little bit late recording this, and we'll get into why. I usually do this like the 22nd or 23rd. It is actually the 24th, so it is Christmas Eve for those of you celebrating. And we got a lot of great stuff for you, as you can tell from my very festive Dolly Rots holiday attire. Let's get right into episode 135.
Who 1, 2, 3, go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall. Go tell it to the wall. Tell it to the wall.
All right, wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers. Something stuck on my... That's not a great start to things. Anyway, welcome to another very exciting episode of Go Tell It to the Wall, hosted by me, your absolute favorite podcast host, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and this is episode 135. Not only is it episode 135, but it is our annual holiday episode. We have done this since the very beginning, way back in 2016. We threw together a holiday episode, and we've kept it going ever since. I think this is the longest running annual episode. We kind of added a 4th of July and like a Thanksgiving episode just because of timing and all that good stuff. But this is the longest of them all. We've been doing this from the very beginning when Go Tell It to the Wall was but a few months old. And while my daughter was actually not even a few months old at that time. So it was not only a very hectic Christmas, for those of you that might remember if you've been listening that long, but a hectic holiday. But we still managed to get an episode in there with a newborn kid screaming throughout the house. Actually, she probably wasn't screaming, but you know what I mean. No, not a lot of sleep going on at that time. All right, so before we get into the meat of our episode 135 annual holiday special, we always kick things off with our social plugs. You can keep up with us during episodes, after episodes, for episodes, whenever you so please, and you can do that in multiple locations. One of those would be facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's right, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall. That's our official Facebook page. Make sure you like and I don't know, what do the kids say? Turn on notifications or something like that. That's going to keep you up to date on all kinds of new episodes. Stuff gets posted up there to keep you in the know of anything and everything having to do with Go Tell It to the Wall. And then, of course, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall or at Go Tell It to the Wall right there on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. That's where you're going to find all of our videos. If you're someone that's just listening and doesn't watch the video feeds, that's where you're going to find the video feeds. They're also on Facebook, but a lot of them are up there as well. All of them are up there as well. And other playlists that don't necessarily get posted elsewhere. So you're going to get all of our album reviews, all of Mental Health Mondays, the parenting playlists, beer reviews, that good stuff, all right there on youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall. And, of course, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, at SoCalSean. Make sure you follow over there if you're interested in photo content as well. And most importantly of all would be SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's right, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That is the official website for me, of course, but also Go Tell It to the Wall, Common Sense Sundays, Go Tell It to the Brewery, all that good stuff. You're also going to find content exclusive to the website that you won't find anywhere else. And additionally, let me say, before I finish this up, my house is madness right now. I have family in town. There's an extra dog, and I can hear my dog currently barking at the extra dog that is here right now. So you're probably going to get a lot of that throughout the episode. Let's see if somebody just busts in this studio and interrupts in the middle of our holiday special. Who knows what could happen? But as I was saying, SeanO'RourkeLive.com, not only are you going to find exclusive content, but you're also going to find a link to our Patreon campaign if you want to support us financially. Every little dollar helps. And if you don't want to get involved with Patreon, you can check out our merch website. Both of those link directly from SeanO'RourkeLive.com. They will take you to separate websites, but it is our merch website, and it is our Patreon campaign website, so both of those are totally secure when you go to them. I can assure you of that. They are as secure as any other HTTPS site that there is out there. And as I mentioned, this is our holiday special. And for those of you that are new to Go Tell It to the Wall, we actually kind of go through our usual stuff, but what we do is look back on the, for the anniversary episodes, We always kind of look back on the years. Now it's been so many years. For the holiday, what we do is not only stuff we've done throughout the year, but current trends. For example, we're going to get into digital trends in a moment. That's going to be kind of the biggest digital trends for the year. We also get into the top toys for the holiday season. I know not everyone celebrates Christmas, but if you're celebrating Hanukkah, you probably might have, and with kids, you might have seen some of these toys flying around. And we also get into the highly, highly anticipated, it's funny, nobody actually cares about it, but I do it just for me, top 10 albums of 2023. It's so funny. I have so many friends that really get into it. I have a friend that does like a 50 album countdown. He's also very, very much more knowledgeable in the music, the broad spectrum that is the music scene, and it's much more in depth. I kind of just give you my top 10 albums that I liked from the past year. So, and if you know me at all, or you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you probably got a good idea of what number one from 2023 is. All right, all that being said, let's get into some digital trends. These are the top trends of 2023. Most of them we did talk about throughout the year, but some of them are a little bit new, and maybe you weren't aware of them, maybe you weren't. It's just not something that came across the headlines here at the Go Tell Us Wall studio. The first one we did talk about, the Roman Empire. You might remember that started trending. This was a recent one, a few months ago, and it actually happened to me on a Discord, and somebody asked the question, hey, all the guys in here, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? Really, nobody thinks about the Roman Empire, although it was funny for me. You might remember I mentioned at the time, I was watching a episodic documentary about the fall of Rome. So I actually did have to be like, well, lately I have been thinking about it a bit, but it's not something that comes to mind unless I'm actually watching a documentary having to do with it. It got so far as to have a sketch on SNL featuring Jason Momoa where he rapped about thinking about the Roman Empire, apparently. I have not watched SNL since like the 90s. I take that back. I do catch a skit every now and then. When they go viral and stuff, but I haven't been a regular watcher since like Will Ferrell. Yeah, I'd say that's probably when I was a regular watcher. Anyway, moving along, another trend. This was something I wasn't aware of. Apparently, it was trending mainly during the summer. It was dubbed Girl Dinner. And this is kind of like the boy math, girl math. Of course, in our scene that I spend a lot of my time, we have, concert math, show math, some of us would say. So kind of along those lines, I believe it started as a joke, but what females were doing, women, and this was called Girl Dinner, I'm sure maybe some men did too, they would take a picture of their plate as they're having dinner, and the plate would be, I think for those of us that were alive for like the supermodel, and I know we have supermodels still, we always will, but there was a time where we're in the like 80s and 90s where supermodels were absolute icons, and you always joke like, that, it's the supermodel diet. It's like ice or something like that. And so this is like a little bit of cheese and maybe a little bit of almonds and a baby pickle, whatever they call those little gherkins or whatever. And that it would just be a mostly empty plate. So actually a big debate came out about this. I actually had to read about it recently because I was like, what is this that we did not cover during the summer of 2023? Some people claimed that it was empowering to people and shunning the stereotypical dinner, which if that's fine, if that's what you're trying to accomplish. Others were saying it was feeding into the unrealistic body standards that really everyone deals with, but especially women, young women throughout the world. And so there was a big debate over what was being accomplished. As usual, nothing gets accomplished from these social media trends. It's just funny things and people have too much time on their hands. All right, moving along. Gimme 5 margaritas. This one I did love. I can't remember if we talked about it or not, but this happened, I want to say it was like in the spring. And there was a female evangelical preacher, 65-year-old evangelical preacher, showed up at a college. Yes, and not a religious college. It might be easier to do this at a religious college, but basically listed off things that make women want to engage in sexual activity. Now imagine listing off things like drinking margaritas. The more margaritas they have, the more apt they are to do it. To 19 to 21-year-old college students. What effect do you think that's going to have? The exact effect that you're thinking of is what happened, and people started cheering for the fact that, and that's where the term "gimme 5 margaritas" came from. Was everyone lost their minds when it was like, and 5 margaritas, yeah! So again, I cannot remember if we talked about it, but it was a very amusing video that was popping around, and people were, of course, running with the "Gimme 5 Margaritas" moniker. So if you haven't seen that one, I highly recommend checking it out. It is hilarious. I have no problem with somebody having, being religious and being a preacher, as long as you're not taking away women's rights, things like that we always talk about here on the podcast. But common sense says, why are you at a college campus where most of those kids are probably drunk already? All right, moving along. Milkshake of Death. We did talk about this one. This is when the Grimace Shake was going on, the Grimace birthday meal. McDonald's made up an arbitrary day that was Grimace's birthday. Maybe it was the day they introduced him. Who cares? He's a giant purple blob. I realize I have purple hair, but that doesn't mean I like everything purple. McDonald's is fine. Nothing against it. But they created a Grimace Shake, and it was purple. And for some reason, we still don't know the exact reason, people filmed themselves drinking the shake and then passing away. Like falling over and pretending to pass away. I don't believe anyone actually died from the shake. It's not like that lemonade that has gone viral from Panera, but it was all this weird thing, and it just caught on, and people kept going with it. So it became dubbed the Milkshake of Death, and it was actually a funny thing, because I do find a lot of these things interesting when it comes to social media. As much as I joke that, like, this is a dumb challenge and people have too much time on their hands, it came up with because you can actually get a PhD in social media. That's how far we've come. You can get a PhD in freaking social media nowadays. And they asked a professor at some university, do you think this hurt the McDonald's brand? And he said, hell no, it was free advertising for McDonald's. Just imagine how many people ran out and got a Grimace Shake after they were seeing these Shake of Death videos. Milkshake of Death. Also reminds me very much of Eddie Izzard, and I don't mean this as an offense. He was Eddie at the time. I realize there has been a name change, and I'm blanking on it. I don't mean any disrespect, but had a special back in the 90s, and it was about the French Revolution, and it was like, remember, let them eat cake. It was cake or death. This just reminds me of that Milkshake of Death very much. I hear that cadence in my head every time I see this Milkshake of Death stuff now. All right, moving along. Another one we did talk about was the Borg, and I think that's a Star Trek thing. Maybe it's not. I didn't watch enough Star Trek, but I feel like they were always fighting with something called the Borg. Has nothing to do with that. What people were doing, college kids mainly, were getting empty milk jugs or gallon water jugs. They were filling that with various drink concoctions. Back in my day, we called it jungle juice or lemon drops. And when you went to a party and there was a trash can full of some kind of punch, you knew everybody was getting wasted that night. And this is kind of your own individual one of those, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. The interesting thing here was I kind of saw both sides of it, because it's like, all right, let's calm down on the drink. And I realized kids drink in college. I'm not going to throw stones from my glass house here, but is it too excessive? How unhealthy is it? There was the other side of things that did make a lot of sense to me, because it's still a problem, always been a problem, was a problem before I was old enough to be going out to parties and bars and stuff, but that would be people spiking drinks, putting nefarious things in there, and so this also came out as like a way of just having your own drink. You bring it to the party. No one else touches it. You can cap it and you carry it around the whole night, and it's safe. I see both sides of that argument, and who knows if the Borg trend will continue to go along there. All right, AI images. I would say 2023 is like the year of AI. It existed before 2023, but 2023 is when everyone just ran with it. I've spoken poorly about AI for the most part, and when I say I've spoken poorly, I'm talking about the AI photography and art. It's creepy as hell. Now, I've reached a point where I do use AI. Certain databases, you can use AI, and it's able to pull, let's say, it's existing photos, let's say, and you're like, I want every photo of such and such with a beard, someone who maybe is clean shaven now, and when they had a beard, and you could do that. That's what it's useful for. But the creepy ass AI images that you see posted all over social media definitely made it the year of AI. Way too many disturbing pics. And I swear to God, if I have to see that damn Big Bird AI image again, I'm just going to smack someone through a computer or through my phone. Do not besmirch Big Bird in such a way. All right, a couple more here, and we're going to move along. Bud Light. Oh, that was quite a fun time. The backlash that Bud Light got, we of course did talk about that one by supporting the LGBTQ community. Everyone lost their minds and used, street pavers and stuff to roll over Bud Light Kid Rock claimed to not, and other country stars claimed they weren't going to have it in their restaurants anymore, despite the fact that they still did. And of course, there's the very viral video of Kid Rock firing a gun at a bunch of Bud Light that he obviously had already paid money for. Just absolutely unhinged. It's just a fucking beer. And I remember I will be honest, I remember the time I was like, well, I'm going to go buy Bud Light. And then I was like, well, I could buy this Bud Light, but I'm not going to drink it because I don't drink Bud Light, but I do support the fact that they're getting backlash for something they don't deserve backlash on. But, that's how it is. And I'm sure Budweiser will be just fine. Not too worried about them losing all their money. And lastly, a more recent one, of course, is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. The memes have been absolute gold. I have thoroughly enjoyed all of this. I will say it started to get annoying watching games, and I think the NFL realized that, and they stopped going to Taylor Swift as much, although there was a great clip where you could argue, and apologies for those of you that aren't sports fans, but it was a bad call against Travis Kelce, and for those of you that are sports fans, it could have maybe been called a pass interference. And they did, Panda. And I'm sure I have a feeling they got a camera on her a lot of the time, and then they'll use the clip. And they use a clip where she clearly says, what the fuck? And that was actually kind of enjoyable. Outside of that, the memes I've enjoyed. But really, let's just calm down, let them live their lives. And of course, so many Swift fans started becoming NFL fans because they could see Taylor Swift's boyfriend playing a professional sport on the football field. All right. And that is it for my top digital trends of 2023. Let's get into a little bit of mental health. We're going to spend like 2 minutes on this. Everybody's got don't got time wrapping gifts, cooking dinners, all that kind of stuff. So we just got a quick one this time. What I will say, it is the final stretch. It is Christmas Eve right now, depending what holiday you celebrate, or even if you don't really celebrate a holiday, but you've got to get gifts for coworkers or whatever. It is the final stretch. It is in the universe's hands now. If you have not received a certain gift that should have been shipped, probably not going to get it in time, but it's also not the end of the world. It's okay to give a gift a little bit late. Nothing wrong with that. Don't stress about that. There's nothing, because there's really nothing you can do. And I will say, recharge a bit this week. Even if you are working this week, your work is probably going to be a little slower. A lot of people just aren't working this week. I'll tell you, if you live in Los Angeles and you always avoid Hollywood because of the crowds, but sometimes you just want to go check out the Walk of Fame or something, this is the week to do it. Everyone in Los Angeles, for the most part, leaves. Traffic becomes fantastic for about a week. The only week of the year that traffic is fantastic. The only week of the year you can go to Hollywood and walk straight into bars and order a drink without fighting through a crowd. Either way, take the time to recharge this week. For me, I do a lot of winter cleaning. My obsessive compulsive disorder, not the way people misuse it, makes me very organized, and I do enjoy some winter cleaning, and I take this because I always have extra time. I'm not really working much this week. We go on a little holiday hiatus every year from Go Tell It to the Wall, so I take that time to do extra organizing and cleaning and that kind of stuff, a little deep cleaning, a little rearranging of the house, and whatnot, and I got a lot of stuff this week, and we're going to get into some of that, which part of it is the reason that we hadn't gotten around to recording until the 24th. Usually, 23rd is usually like, okay, this is the last day I can do it. But there's a reason I couldn't do it yesterday, and we'll talk about that shortly. And just take time for you, whatever it may be. If it's going out to a bar with a couple of friends, if it's sitting at home and watching movies for 5 days straight, if it's eating every cheese possible under the sun, then go for it. Just make sure you're not overindulging, of course. So please take care of yourselves. Drama's not worth it. Don't put too much pressure on it, and just be in the moment. That's all I can say. All right, positive news. I avoided it again. If you remember last year's special, I came so close. And I'm trying to think of what the close call was. But I was constantly, I remember being, that's what it was. We had a Girl Scout event, and people had music playing. And I was like, I swear, if I get whammed at this thing, I'm going to be so upset. Made it through that unscathed. Now, if you're familiar with the rules, you know that covers don't count. I have the Dolly Rots Christmas album. Shout out to the Dolly Rots and the fine Christmas sweatshirt that I acquired from them. And they have a cover of Last Christmas, but it doesn't count. It's got to be the Wham. I made it to the 24th. I'm really proud of myself, and hopefully next year I'll make it just as far. I know some people that did not make it. The funny thing is, I did kind of get it, but it doesn't start till December 1st. my wife put on a playlist like the day after Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving was very early this year, like November 23rd or something. So it's the 24th, not even December yet. And I went, oh my God, we got to be careful with these playlists. And sure enough, everywhere we're driving the past few weeks, we've got here, and every city has a channel, a station that does it. Here we have Coast. And I feel like right after Thanksgiving, they go all Christmas music all the time, all holiday music rather, all the time. And I think they know the Whamageddon situation because the entire time riding around in cars, did not hear it. So I made it all the way to Christmas Eve. Let's see if I can make it all the way to the end of the month. I have a feeling I'll get whammed at some point like tomorrow while everyone's going crazy with the holiday music and stuff. But I feel like making it 24 days is pretty good, and that's positive news as far as I'm concerned. Second year in a row. 2 years in a row. So I remember it's like 3 years ago, I swear I got it like December 2nd, and it was walking into a grocery store or something. It's just like, thanks, guys. But I think retailers and stations are realizing, like, they're just going to get mad at us if someone ends up getting whammed, like, early in the month because we're playing it. All right, parenting. I want to get into a couple important things here. First one being this, and this has been a topic of discussion, very much so around my parent groups, and that would be Elf on the Shelf. Here's the thing, parents. You want to do Elf on the Shelf, that's fine. Totally fine. If that's something your family chooses to do, that's fine. But if it is something your family chooses to do, you need to make sure your children understand that maybe not every family does that. This actually came up this season with other kids who said, well, if you don't have an Elf on the Shelf, how does Santa know you've been good? And I simply say, because he knows when you're sleeping. He's watching you regardless of this silly little elf. Elves on the shelves, they might have existed. I feel like we Googled this a couple years ago. This was not a big thing when I was a kid. In the 80s, we didn't do this. So again, it's fine if you want to do it. But teach your kids accordingly. Just because one family doesn't have an elf on a shelf doesn't mean Santa's not coming. So please, 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 please teach your kids compassion. Do what you want. But it doesn't mean every family in the U.S. or in the world is required to do it because you decided Elf on a Shelf was a fun thing to do. Covert gift wrapping. This is always a challenge. And I think I've mentioned this on another episode either in previous years or even this year on another December episode. This closet behind me, if you watch the video feed, now there's much less, but it just gradually fills up starting in November with gifts. Mainly for my wife. I tend to hide my daughter's gifts more. Like I'll take them to the garage and hide them because she don't go in the garage. She doesn't really go in here, and I tell her not to, but she's getting to the age where she might be a little curious. But I tell my wife, do not open his closet. There's stuff for you in there. She knows not to go in there. And then it's the challenge of getting it out of there wrapped and under the tree. So last night, I was up till 2:30 in the morning wrapping. And then even after the kid's asleep, you got to worry that she's going to come out of the room. It was much easier when she was in a crib and like, hey, you're stuck. Now she can just decide she wants to wake up and come out to the living room, and suddenly I'm wrapping one of her gifts that she's supposed to be opening on Christmas and ruined, So I feel you. I know there's a challenge. And like I said, I was up till 2:30 in the morning last night wrapping gifts because it was the only time I had time. And I got more to wrap tonight. Jesus Christ, wrapping of the gifts. Oh, Nutcracker. I do love me some Nutcracker. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, and this is like our 4th year in a row doing it. We go to see an annual performance not far from where we live. It's also a lot of kids that perform in it from the ballet schools around the Los Angeles area. They bring them in there, and they all, they dance like the mice and the fairies and all that kind of stuff, and it's a fantastic performance, and we got to enjoy it again this year, and I always look at it as something like really kicking off the holiday season for our family. My daughter loves it. My wife loves it. We were clapping. We were laughing. We were cheering, and it's just a lot of fun. I highly recommend, unless you really hate the Nutcracker, highly recommend during the holiday season looking into a performance, especially if you can go support younger dancers and troops like that. A lot of them are nonprofits, and you're supporting the arts, really. So highly recommend that, and especially, I think for the most part, I think kids enjoy the Nutcracker. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. All right, I believe we talked about this last year, but a tradition that I learned from my wife's cousin, so my cousin, I guess, something he started doing years and years ago, and it was brilliant. And I did it for the first year last year. And if your family's into Legos, I recommend doing this. day after Christmas tends to be a really relaxed day. You're eating leftover turkey or whatever else. We're eating leftover lasagna. You're kind of just settling down and exhausted and everything else. And so my cousin, years and years ago, for him and his wife and 2 kids, he would buy them all Lego sets, including himself, and they'd spend the day after Christmas building Legos. So last year, I decided I was going to start that tradition with my family. Did it again this year. Bought Lego sets, and my daughter gets I get her a couple. My wife gets one, and then I actually ended up buying myself one and put it under the tree so we can all unwrap our Legos. And then the day after Christmas, we sit around and build some Lego sets, and it's a lot of fun. So especially if your kids are into Legos. I mean, my kid is in the Lego phase right now. I still love Legos. I mean, there's Lego junk, little stuff all around here. I got the Lego minifigs like behind me and all that good stuff. It's just a lot of fun. All right, let's talk about the top toys of 2023. This is pulled from a couple websites, and I wouldn't even say it's a top 10. This is just a sampling of the top toys of 2023. And it's funny because some of them end up being kind of like callbacks, you know what I mean, to other stuff. First one I found, and interestingly enough, my daughter got one of these for her birthday, is this Bitsy. It is a interactive toy. Now, if you're of a certain age, if you're over the age of like 25 or 30. You remember these Tamagotchis, back in like the 90s, and I think they had a resurgence at one point. It's very similar to this. It's a little pet you got to take care of, but it's a lot more interesting because it's this funky little hologram that like pops up and down, and you pet it and you make it do things and you feed it or whatever else. Very popular nowadays, and in fact, I believe some other kids are getting them on Christmas morning because my daughter brought it to school for show and tell. And I got some texts from other parents like, where do you get this thing? And now apparently it is a very popular toy. Magnetiles Downhill Duo. If you're not familiar with these Magnetiles and you have kids, make sure you pick up some Magnetiles because this is another building thing that's really fun to do with your kids. And apparently this Downhill Duo is like a ball racing thing, and you build the Magnetiles and you race them, and it's a lot of fun, blah, blah, blah. So check that one out. Little Mermaid Transforming Skirt. Now, Little Mermaid is very popular right now. My daughter saw the live action in the theater. She was a Little Mermaid fan to begin with, became even more of a Little Mermaid fan. But apparently this is one of those, like a changing thing. You've probably seen viral videos of women like they pull a thing and their dress changes completely. This changes from a mermaid tail to a dress, that's really cool. If you're into the Little Mermaid, why would you not want that? And then, of course, Squishmallows. If you haven't seen Squishmallows, next time you're at like Target or something, go down the toy line and just see how soft these damn things are. My daughter has a few of them now. Like, they have giant ones, they have little ones. She's got a couple giant ones. But, of course, those are very, very popular. Also, the LOL Surprise. I feel like we've had this on the holiday special like for the past 2, 3, 4 years with how popular the LOL Surprise is. These are like a blind bag ball thing, and you pull out a doll. Didn't even mean to be rhyming there, but so be it. Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which is a new Mario Brothers game, apparently very popular. It is a game for the Switch, and then that, of course, leads us into another one of the most popular gifts, which I think has been a very popular holiday gift for the past couple years, and that is the Nintendo Switch. We still don't have one in my house, but I have a feeling we're like a year or two away from having one in the house. My kid is getting of the age where she does want to play video games, and like my wife and I, every once in a while, we're like, should we get one of those? Like, we could play a little, like, what was it? There was a farm game that was really popular for a while, especially during COVID. It's like, yeah, maybe so. I think I'm a year or two off from getting one of those. This is the one, Elmo Slide, which is a doll, and it dances around, and if you're familiar with more recent Sesame Streets, Elmo does the Elmo Slide. He's like, and there's a whole song with it. So it looks like this is a Elmo that dances and does the Elmo Slide song. Big callback to the 90s. I was too old for it, but remember Tickle Me Elmo? And that still exists, but back in the 90s, there was always one toy that you just could not get. They made movies about this, for Christ's sake. And Tickle Me Elmo was one of the years. You just could not find a Tickle Me Elmo. And now it comes full circle, as we're all having kids, and Elmo is still popular, and now it's another Elmo doll. Melissa and Doug Pilot Dashboard. This is actually a tactile, not digital. It's like a wooden pilot, fun little, support the imagination of children type thing, because they don't need everything to be digital. And then another top toy, which I think I don't know if it's been a top toy or not for a while, but My daughter actually received one of these from Santa a few years ago, and it is the Disney Princess Collection. It is 12 dolls. Just fair warning to parents, it is 12. They're not officially licensed Barbie dolls. They're Disney dolls, but they look just like they're same size and dimensions as Barbie. 12 of them in one package. So just beware. You're going to have 12. Now, since then, we have far surpassed the 12. My kid's got at least 2 dozen Barbies. No, probably 3 dozen Barbies. It's nuts. Got the dream house, all this shit. She's all about the Barbies. But that would be some of your top toys for the holiday season 2023. All right, let's talk some common sense. And then we'll get to our top 10 albums of 2023. And then, of course, our annual reading of Twas the Night Before Christmas. All right, common sense. So yesterday, I had planned to get into the studio and record the holiday special. I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast, but we have been in the market for a new car in this family. We've been a single car family for like a year. Got rid of my old car. It was a pretty old car. I loved it. Toyota Highlander. I drove it into the fucking ground. It was a great car, but it got old. And it's like, you know what? Let's sell this thing. And my wife and I primarily work from home. And if we're not working from home, she's usually doing stuff during the day, unless she's got like a work event. And I'm obviously doing stuff in the evening because I'm out shooting shows or going to shows to network. So it worked, but it's finally like, all right, we got to get a car. And we were casually looking. We went to a dealership a couple days ago. Well, we ended up going down one of those dealership holes yesterday, and there was a deal. And apparently, I'm a proud owner of a new Subaru Ascent, which is it's the biggest Subaru they make. I think the biggest. Seats the most people. It's three rows of seats. And apparently, they're very hard to find right now. And so we went to one dealer. They had like one, and I was like, no, I'm not paying that. And we're fortunate. I count myself very fortunate to be able to do this. I'm not. Because when you're young and broke, when I bought, my last car, I was in my 20s, for Christ's sake. I had the car for so long. And you're going in there, you're like, I just here's what I can afford to pay every month. Well, fortunately, I'm at a point where I could say, you know what? We're going to need at least this percentage rate, and the most we're going to go is this amount. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. We're going to go elsewhere. And so we ended up in the first dealership, they couldn't do any of that stuff. And so we go to another one because we'd seen I wanted to get a new one, but they had a used one with like 4,000 miles on it. Had all the bells and whistles. I'm going, all right, let's go check this out. Get there, they sold that thing. But great sales department down there at Hawthorne Pacific Subaru here in L.A. And it's actually in the South Bay, but Los Angeles. And they started searching other dealerships. Ended up tracking one down for us. Took a long time. So, I got a kid running around the dealership. Fortunately, they got a kid's play area. And she's playing with Hot Wheels and stuff. And they finally found it. And they're like, it's in Ontario. So, for those of you that are not familiar with Southern California, Ontario's, it's not super, it's a drive, it's not a crazy drive, but it's not close. So I said, it's going to be here in a couple hours. And we had the rate locked in, the price locked in, everything else. So we're like, all right, we're going to go home for a couple hours. And we go back. The car's almost here. We're getting your paperwork together, and then you can sign it. Here's the thing with buying a car. It is truly an all-day affair. Because even once you're like, okay, I want that, they got to put together all this paperwork. You got to run your credit, which always cracks me up. They're like, can we run your credit? And just to make it easier at first, we were like, yeah, just run my wife's credit. And my wife has incredible credit. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, we got to put my name on there, too. We were just trying to get it done with quick enough. Put my name on there, and it's like, oh, okay. So, for those of you not familiar with credit scores, and trust me, I know how rough it is. I spent my 20s destroying my credit. I spent my 30s reestablishing my credit. Once you hit 800, you almost don't. They have to do a credit check, but it's not. There's no difference. If you're over 800, that's it. You're good to go. So we go through that whole process, sign in the paperwork, and the funny thing is, they end up coming back and they're like, wait. This is not the car that we thought we were getting for you. It's actually the super duper nicer one. And they're like, well, would you be interested in that? And I said, well, I would be, but I'm not going to pay thousands extra for it. And God bless this guy in financing there. He goes, let me see what I can do. And he's typing away, probably maybe faking. I don't know what he's doing, and we're standing at the counter. He's like, all right, here's what you were, and here's what it is now. And it was less than $400 more. And I said, all right, well, for all the bells and whistles and leather and shit, yeah, I can do $400 more. So I ended up walking out of there with a real nice car. But it ate up the entire day. We were supposed to be at a holiday party at like 6. We get to the holiday party at like 8:30, and then kids are supposed to be leaving the party around 9. So we spend like a half an hour at the party, and then we go home. I've barely driven this car. I drove it home, parked it. We hopped in the other car because it's a smaller car, and where we're going to parking is not great. So I was like, let's take the narrow streets and stuff. Take that car. Haven't even had a second to barely looked at the car. Like my daughter didn't even see it yet until this morning because we had to rush to this party. But I'll tell you, car buying, man. But now I'm not going to have to do it for another few years. Did it back in 2016, but I left that up to my wife because I was like, we're replacing your car, you pick, and I got to pick this time around. It's nice how that works. So I got the bells and the whistles. Although it is funny from a common sense standpoint, my old car still had a tape deck, and our other car, it's got the screen and stuff, but it's still a lot of buttons. Nowadays, they're just putting a screen in the cars. So everything's on this screen, and I'm start driving off the dealership lot, and I'm going, where the fuck is the radio? How do I turn the radio on? I know there's speakers, and I know there's capability to play shit, but it took me a few minutes to find the radio. So that's how I know I'm getting a little old, because I'm like, how do I drive this damn thing? I'm just waiting for. I'm gonna start counting how many times I try to stick the little key thing into the push start because there's not even a key for it. Whole situation there. Anyway, another trend. This is something that was trending. I saw it popping up over the past couple days, and this is, of course, people being like, and this is finger quoted for those of you not watching the video feed. Christians, respect to Christians. Fine, be a Christian. I don't care. Saying, why do atheists have Christmas trees and give Christmas presents? And it's like, because it's not necessarily a fucking religious holiday. Let's get that out of there. You ever heard of the winter solstice? So many cultures have stuff very similar to Christmas. And in fact, there's a very good argument for Christians stealing the Christmas tree from other cultures that were pagan cultures. So it's fine. If you want to celebrate it as a religious holiday, totally fine. You want to celebrate it as a non-religious holiday, totally fine. But leave it to however people want to do it. Just because you're not Christian doesn't mean you can't have a Christmas tree and Christmas gifts. Give me a break. And that was trending. It's like, really? Come on, man. Like, you can have it both ways. Why do you care if somebody's got a Christmas tree and they're not going to church? How does that affect you? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. No problem there. All right, Christmas Eve dinner. I always say make it easy. And years ago, my wife surprised me with a Taste Chicago box. It showed up on my porch. And for those of you not familiar with Taste Chicago, it's a company that sends frozen stuff from Chicago restaurants. You can get Pizzeria Uno, and I think they have Geno's, they have Lou Malnati's, and they have Portillo's, which is incredible Italian beef sandwiches. If you're ever in Chicago and you have not had Portillo's, make sure you pick up an Italian beef sandwich. Now, if you're in certain areas around Chicago, definitely look up Papa's Pizza, because no offense to Portillo's, Papa's is a superior Italian beef sandwich, but they ain't delivering to California. So this year, my wife realized she could order directly from Portillo's, not just from Taste Chicago. And it already paid off being different, because the Taste Chicago doesn't come cool. I'm sorry for those of you not on the video feed. They sent the paper Portillo's hat. So I will be wearing this after I get out of the studio. The headphones would have ruined it. I'm going to wear this while I eat my Italian beef sandwich, my Christmas Eve dinner. But most importantly, eat what you enjoy. Keep it easy. Don't put so much stress on it. Oh, God, And if it's part of your culture and you got to do the whole 7 C's, like, I get it, 7 Mars, like, that's an Italian thing, and 7 different fishes, that's fine. But, if it's something that stresses you out like crazy, get some Chinese food. For years when I was younger, we'd have a big Christmas dinner with all the family, but we'd have a smaller Christmas Eve dinner. We were getting Kentucky Fried or Church's Chicken. And it was like you just picked it up, bam. And that all started because we got into Chicago really late one Christmas Eve, and it was like, we got to eat. Well, let's go to KFC. Perfect. So my suggestion is don't put too much pressure on it and eat what you like. All right, another important thing. We talked about this last year and probably the year before and probably the year before. We're going to talk about it every damn year. And it always comes up, and you might have seen reminders of this. try not to brag about, everyone posts photos of their holiday trees and everything else covered with gifts. And I'm not saying don't do that, but keep in mind people that are going to be viewing that, maybe your kids' friends who maybe don't have as much as you do. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. My family is very fortunate in that respect. My daughter gets a ridiculous amount of Christmas gifts from her family. Santa always takes really good care of her. But not every kid has that. So keep that in mind when you're bragging or your kid's talking to other kids. Make sure that other kids, other parents are not being made to feel inferior because of the amount of gifts that, again, I'm not saying don't post those photos. Just keep in mind the impact those photos could have outside of what you're trying to accomplish. And most importantly, this holiday season, especially as we get into this week that I always call like a void, because regardless if you celebrate Christmas, like I said, a lot of offices are closed, people are on vacation, everything else, and I always joke that the week between Christmas and New Year's is just this void where you're just like eating cheese and building Legos and watching movies, and time is meaningless or whatever. Just be careful not to overindulge. I think we talked about this on the Thanksgiving episode as well. It can be stressful, but just don't overindulge, whether it's food, desserts, cheese. I don't know what it is with cheese at the holidays. It's like, everyone's like, buy all the cheeses. We do it too. There's like 8 kinds of cheeses in my fridge right now and it's not, we get nice cheese now and then. We're like, let's get a nice little Irish cheddar or a Gouda or something, No, there's like 8 to 10 different types of cheese in my fridge now because it's the holidays, and apparently you got to have a shit ton of cheese for the holidays. Although shit, now that I'm saying that, I hope there's some mozzarella in there. Might have forgot to get the mutts for the Italian beef there. Might be sending somebody out for a little shopping here shortly. Anyway, have fun, not regrets. All right. And that brings us to entertainment news and the top 10 albums of 2023. According to nobody else but myself, these are albums I liked. You're welcome to disagree, debate me on them. I really don't give a shit. This is what I enjoyed over the past year and my top 10 albums, starting from number 10. And obviously based on the album reviews we do and the show recaps we do, you know where this list is going to lean a little bit. So here we go. Let me get a little sip of water first here, and then we're going to get into Twas the Night Before Christmas. All right, at number 10, see if I can do this without my glasses. Glasses are coming out for the reading here, but at number 10, this one actually just came out recently, and this is a band I've been listening to for quite a few years, but I was reminded of them recently because I got to see them play a show, like a week ago, I think, with Polly Van Dam and a couple other great bands that were out there. That would be Odd Robot and their 2023 release, Deathmates. I believe it came out in like November. Like their vinyl just got pressed. I was talking to one of the guys in Odd Robot. But Odd Robot, Deathmates, check that out. And if you're not familiar with Odd Robot, check out their back catalog as well. Number 9, Omnigone. I really got into Omnigone over the past year just in general because of Bad Time Records and because they toured with Catbite and whoever else they toured with. They've played with Half Past 2 a couple times that I was there. So Omnigone, Against the Rest. That is their 2023 release. A band that I've mentioned on a previous episode, been trying for over a year to see, would be Not, N-O-T, and their 2023 release, Stop the World. It is a banger. Check it out. If you're into that type of music, you need to have that album, Stop the World. Where am I? 7, number 7, The Streets. I have a soft spot for The Streets. Love Mike Skinner. He's fantastic. The darker the shadow, the brighter the light. Fantastic album that came out, and I think I did a quick review on it. One of my favorite lines is he refers to vapes as electronic tobacco smoke. And you're like, oh my God, it's brilliant. It's like nobody but Mike Skinner could do that. All right. Number 6, the Dolly Rots, Night Owls. This one just came out like a month or two ago. And if you're into the Dolly Rots, you're going to be into Night Owls. They have not put an album out that's no good. And Night Owls is another example of that. So make sure you're checking that out. Number 5, right? Yeah, 5. Venomous Pink's Vita Moors. This one came out early in 2023. The first full-length album from the talented ladies of Venomous Pinks. As you know, I am a huge fan of theirs. There's a sticker on the wall. All 3 of them are just great human beings. And Vita Moore's is just such the epitome of kind of what they stand for. So make sure you're checking out Vita Moore's. Number 4 would be Blink-182, One More Time. The triumphant return of Tom DeLonge. I was not a big fan of the first couple of tracks they put out, but it grew on me. And while it is not completely classic Blink-182, they definitely went back to their roots a little bit. They reined in Travis Barker, for God's sake. I think a producer was like, dude, just play normal drums. Well, let's not overdrum on this whole album the way you have every other Blink-182 album. And it helped. It worked. They reined him in. Fantastic album. Number 3, Rancid, Tomorrow Never Comes. Good Lord, it is a good album. And there's 22 tracks on it. It's very let's go. Not a ton of ska on it. That's always the thing. Rancid has a little bit of ska sound. It's yeah, they do, but it's not a lot of ska on there. But it harkens back to Let's Go. Just hard, fast, quick songs, loud. It is beautiful. I can't recommend that one enough if you're even a remote Rancid fan. It's the best Rancid album in years. By far. Probably the best Rancid album since 2000. The Rancid 2000. The one that came out into the whole debate. So you got a self-titled. You got another self-titled. They call it Rancid 2000. You know what I'm talking about. All right, number 2. Amy, Gabba, and the Almost Famous. Screaming at the top of my lungs. We did a full album review on this one. Amy is just so ridiculously talented. A lot of people call it a ska album. I would say it has a ska feel to it, but it is a straight rock album. She does harmonies for herself. It is just beautiful. We were listening to it just the other day. My kid loves it. I love Tara Hahn. She is on it from 2:30. Who else is on it? I can't remember. There's a couple other people on it. What's his name from Real Big Fish and some others that are on it. But Amy is an uber talented singer, musician, songwriter. And shocking Wall fans, common sensors. Number 1 album of 2023, according to no one other than me. I made that rhyme. I'm never going to be able to make that rhyme again until 2033. Would be the Barstool Preachers, Above the Static. This is the highly anticipated album. We waited years. They had songs done back in 2020 and finally completed an album, finally got it on the record label they wanted, and came out with just an absolute banger, start to finish. Love those boys. I know. I'm biased. I love them. But goddamn, is it a good album. If you're not listening to Above the Static, you're missing out. I don't care if you don't like them. I'm going to shove that album down your throat and make you enjoy it, damn it. But that is my absolute number 1 album of 2023. Barstool Preachers, Above the Static. All right. We are nearly at the end of our 2023 annual holiday special, but we have one more piece of business to take care of. And that would be the annual reading of Twas the Night Before Christmas. I have not cracked this book. I have to get my glasses on. I can read my own notes because I wrote them. But when it comes to reading books and stuff, a lot of times I need my glasses. And people are always like, "You wear glasses?" I'm like, "Yes, I can see a face." But if I got to read something or I'm watching something that I've got to really pay attention, the glasses come out. That's just how it is. So we are going to get into the annual reading. This is the same book that was read on the very first holiday special back in 2016. And for some of you may remember, I was running around town trying to find a copy of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas because it was my daughter's first Christmas. She doesn't remember it because she was 6 weeks old, but I needed to have that tradition started of reading 'Twas the Night Before Christmas on Christmas Eve every year, and it's something we have done every year of my daughter's life and something we have done every year on Go Tell It to the Wall. So here we go. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew with the sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry, his cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry, his droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of his pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod up the chimney, he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the dawn of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." All right, Wall fans. Before we close things out, I just want to say I wish you and yours, your family, a happy holiday, regardless of what you celebrate, a safe holiday, a safe kind of recharge, and happy new year as we approach that. And just know that I do appreciate every single one of you that listens, that shares, that gives us feedback, whether it's good or bad. I do appreciate every single one of you, and wish nothing but the best as we approach 2024, and hopefully some great things on the horizon for all of you, as well as for us here at Go Tell It to the Wall. All right, and on that note, couple reminders. We are going into holiday hiatus, but it has happened in years past where I just jump in the studio. You know, maybe I've had a drink or two, and I say, hey, you know what? Let's get an episode going. Who knows if that'll happen, but don't expect a new episode until after the first, most likely, and we'll kind of hash out a new schedule. We're playing with some new things as we talked about over the past couple episodes, so look forward to that. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall, youtube.com/GoTellItToTheWall, or at GoTellItToTheWall on YouTube, my own personal Instagram account, which is at SoCalSean, SoCalSean, and make sure you bookmark SeanO'RourkeLive.com, where you'll find links to all those things, as well as exclusive content, as well as links to our Patreon campaign and our merch website. All right. Wall fans, common sensors, podcast consumers, for the last time in 2023, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you're with, no matter where you go, and especially no matter why you are doing it, always, always use common sense.